My daughter lied once, I believed her and kicked my son out. 2 years later, she needs his kidney, but he refuses to save her. I never imagined I'd write something like this, or that I'd be sitting here alone, my hands shaking, revisiting every decision I made that night, every word I screamed, and every quiet I chose to maintain. I was 38, and my spouse was 39. We had 2 children, Adrian, 18, and Isabella, 9. Despite the significant age disparity, I always assumed they loved each other, looked after each other, and were close siblings. Adrian was quiet and reserved. He enjoyed reading, staying in his room, and studying, yet he was a good lad. He never responded to me, never caused difficulty, and never gave me any reason to distrust him. Isabella was the complete opposite. Cheerful, active, a whirlwind, constantly moving and talking. And because I worked part-time and my husband spent long hours away, Adrian frequently looked after her. He would return home from college and be with her until I arrived. There were no indicators. Until that night, it was a family meal. We'd prepared spaghetti. My sister-in-law provided the wine. My nephews were playing in the living room. My husband, my children, and I were all at the table, along with a couple of cousins. Nothing unusual, nothing out of the ordinary. And then Isabella spoke it plainly, without drama or tears, like if the neighbor's dog had bitten her. "Adrian touched me down there," she said simply and coldly, as if she didn't realize the gravity of the situation. Everything ceased. My cousin quit speaking. My spouse stared at me. I gazed at my kid. "What did you say, my love?" I asked softly, trying not to shake. "My brother touched my private parts twice." I coughed on my own breath. Nobody said anything for a few seconds. Then my hubby got up. His chair tipped backward. I followed him as if my legs were moving themselves. I called Adrian. He didn't respond. I called again. This time he picked up. "What's wrong, Mom?" "Come home now." "What happened?" "Just come home." He got off the line. It took him 20 minutes to arrive. He stepped in with his knapsack on his shoulder, perplexed. "What happened?" Before he could respond, my husband pushed him hard against the wall. "Did you touch her? Did you touch your sister?" What are you talking about?" Adrian couldn't grasp. I swear it, I could see it on his face. He was pale, terrified, stammering, and shaking his head. "No, of course not. I would never do that. I don't know why she's saying that." But my husband wouldn't let him go on. He punched him in the face. Adrian collapsed to the floor, bleeding from his nose, and looked up at us with a mixture of terror, amazement, and something more. Something I'd never seen before in him. Betrayal. I did nothing. I simply gazed at him. I did not hug him. I did not defend him. I did not believe him. My husband went to his room and got his backpack, clothes, and paperwork. He went outside, flung everything on the doorstep, and screamed, "You're dead to us! Never come back!" Adrian was crying, practically begging. He said he didn't comprehend, and it wasn't true. "Please don't kick me out." And I simply stood there clutching Isabella. No word, not a single one. We excluded him from everything. We changed the locks and canceled his college support. He never returned to that house or made another call. He ceased to exist for us. We spent weeks convincing ourselves that we had done the right thing by sheltering our baby. We questioned her multiple times if there was anything more that had happened. She only said no twice. And we never took her to a psychologist because we thought our love was enough, and we blindly believed her. For a while, it appeared that peace was returning. Isabella played, smiled, and slept better. I started sleeping too, until the dreams started. I would see Adrian on the floor, his face bleeding, his eyes wide, gazing at me, his mother, and asking, "Why?" Because I didn't inquire, I didn't doubt, I simply acted. That was the night I completely destroyed him. Months have passed since we kicked Adrian out. Months of silence, denial, and thinking we'd done the right thing. Isabella smiled again, playing. She even mentioned that she felt safer today. I viewed that as a sign that we had acted appropriately. My husband never brought up Adrian's name again. Whether I indicated that I missed him or inquired whether we knew anything about him, his expression would freeze me from the inside. Adrian didn't exist for him anymore. Until that Saturday, Isabella was on her way to art class. An elder cousin was driving her. It was a calm afternoon. I was folding laundry when the phone rang. I don't recall much of the call. Only a few words remain in my ear. Accident, head-on collision, ambulance, one person killed. The girl is in critical condition. My husband followed me as I hurried to the hospital. We arrived as she was being brought to the ER. There was blood. There were shrieks. Doctors were scurrying everywhere. I saw her pale, unconscious little face covered in tubes. For a little moment, the world fell silent again. My niece was killed in the impact. Isabella lived, but only barely. The diagnosis was straightforward: serious damage to her left kidney, several internal hemorrhages, and contusions. She would require immediate surgery, most likely a transplant. The physicians advised us that time was of the essence and that we should be prepared for the worst. We spent days in the ICU. I never left her side, sleeping on a chair and refusing to eat. I simply stared at the machines that kept her alive. My husband became a statue. He didn't speak or cry. He was simply there. One night, Isabella opened her eyes. She was weak. She couldn't speak clearly, but she recognized me. She gave me a small grin and asked, "Mom, do you think there is a heaven?" My throat tightened. "Yes, my love, of course there is." "And do you think bad people can go there if they're sorry?" "Why do you ask that, sweetheart?" She took a break. Her gaze grew far away. "Because I did something very bad. Something exceedingly awful." I felt my stomach drop. "A few months ago, I lied to you. I lied about Adrian." I didn't speak. "What? What did you lie about?" "I made it up, Mom. The part about him touching me. It wasn't true. I was just angry because he wouldn't let me use his tablet. I wanted to punish him. I thought if I said something, I don't know. I didn't think all of that would happen." Then I became afraid and didn't know how to convey the truth. Her eyes flooded with tears. Mine had already overflowed. "I killed my brother," she replied, sobbing. "And now I'm going to die too." I clutched her as if I might draw her soul into mine. "Don't say that. You're not going to die. Forgive you. I'm right here with you." But inside, a fracture was tearing me apart. Not for her, but for him, Adrian, for his expression on the floor and his quiet. That night, I returned home. I dragged myself like a dying beast. I told my hubby everything. He was calm. He didn't say anything for several minutes. Finally, without looking at me, he murmured, "We're not going to judge her. What's done is done," and walked away. His apathy hurt me more than his fist that night, but I couldn't take the stillness any longer. In the early hours of the morning, I looked for Adrian. His phone number was disconnected. I found him after searching social media platforms. A profile image without a face indicates a semi-abandoned account. I emailed him, "Hi, it's me. Please just read this." He did not respond. I waited one day. 2. On the third day, I sent an additional message, long and painful. I informed him about the accident, Isabella, and the confession. I told him I wasn't expecting him to forgive me. I just wanted him to know Mom wanted to see him, that she didn't have much time, and that we weren't asking for anything else. Hours later, a response. "You all hurt me too much. I don't know if I can forgive, but if she's as bad as you say, I'll go one last time." My hands trembled as I texted him the hospital location. I heard nothing else for 3 days. I was in the hallway when I noticed him. Adrian is leaner, has dark circles under his eyes, and wears basic clothing. He walked as if he were carrying the weight of the world upon his shoulders. My heart desired to run to him. My body did not move. I watched him enter the room. She spotted him. He stared at her, and time stood still. Isabella burst out in tears. "I'm sorry, please, I ruined you." Adrian listened quietly. "I can't forgive you completely," he finally replied, "but a part of me already has." He grasped her hand, spoke to her for a few minutes, and then went. He did not greet or glance at me. He only left one sentence before going away. "If there's a funeral, I'll be there, but don't expect anything else." He didn't say anything else after that. Do not anticipate anything else. Adrian vanished again. No message, no reaction, only the echo of his voice in that room, in Isabella's cries, repeating her apology again and over, as if asking for forgiveness was sufficient. But I couldn't sleep now that I knew. I knew time was running out, and the only person who could save my daughter was the same one I had assisted in destroying. A week after his visit, the doctor confirmed it. She's going to need a transplant soon. My spouse and I had compatibility tests. We weren't compatible, neither of us. The risk of rejection was exceedingly high. The doctor was direct. A biological brother is the best option. If he's a match, the chances are much higher. I'd already known. I'd seen it in the medical records. They have the same blood type, O+. Even though I knew I had no right, I looked for him again. I wrote to him from a number he didn't recognize. I just said, "It's important. Please, we need to talk." To my amazement, he consented. We met in a small, remote coffee shop. He was on time. He strolled in alone, without looking at anyone. He was wearing the same modest clothes and carrying a rucksack on his shoulder. However, his eyes were different. They were no longer the eyes of a hurt youngster, but of someone who had learnt to accept the emptiness. He sat across from us. My hubby was beside me. Nobody talked for several seconds. He interrupted the stillness. "What do you want?" I gulped hard. My voice quivered. "Adrian, we checked the test. There's a high chance you're a match for Isabella. The doctor says if you get tested, you could save her." He wasn't responding. He expressed no rage or astonishment, only fatigue. "You're asking me to donate to my sister?" "Yes, I told you." My husband intervened. "We know this doesn't erase the past, but it could be the first step to fixing things, to becoming a family again." Adrian raised his eyebrows. He then gazed at us with surgical coldness. "Becoming a family again?" I asked, choking back tears. "We're not asking you to forgive us, just to help her. She's dying." Then he smiled. However, it was not a cheerful smile. It was a sad, sardonic, and perplexing smirk. "And you think this fixes everything?" my spouse asked, winking. "It's not for us, it's for her." Her, the same one who said I touched her, the one who watched me sleep on the street and didn't lift a finger, the one who only said she was sorry when she realized she might die? I tried to interrupt. "Adrian, please. Do you know how many times I thought about dying?" he asked. "How many nights I slept clutching my backpack? How many times I didn't eat for 2 days because I didn't have a single coin?" He looked at us but didn't notice us. He was speaking to his recollections. "I was about to throw myself off a bridge, not once, but 3 times. And you know why I didn't? Because I told myself, if I survive this, then I'm going to live my way without owing anything to anyone." He took his place. "And now you come to ask me to cut myself in two, to give a part of myself to save you." My husband stood up as well, this time with his fists tightened. "Your sister is dying." "Doesn't that mean anything to you?" Adrian asked, his expression mixed with wrath and pity. "You know what it means to me? That now it turns out I'm worth something. That now you need me. That now you want to listen to me." I was shaking with joy. "Just think about it, please. If not for her, then for yourself. So you can get closure on this." He was grumbling. "I've already got closure. I received it the night I slept on the street with a bloodied face while you celebrated Christmas without me." He then left. He did not shout, cry, or disrespect us. He just departed. That was the last time I saw him. I did not sleep that night. My husband paced the living room like a caged lion, muttering words like ungrateful, selfish. What kind of brother does that? I heard him, but I didn't disagree because one phrase kept replaying in my head. She is dying and he can save her. I felt useless, empty, and increasingly desperate. So I did the unthinkable. I opened Facebook. I shared a photo of Isabella in the hospital, tubes, dark circles, her little face sleepy, delicate on the verge of death. I wrote a lengthy, honest, yet twisted text. I informed them that we needed a donor, that her brother was a match, that we had already apologized, that the girl had sought forgiveness, and that he was the only thing missing. I tagged him, using his full name, and concluded with a condemnatory sentence. What kind of monster refuses to save his sister when he has the power to do so? First, there was silence. Then the post blew up. Dozens of reactions, hundreds of comments, initially from acquaintances, then relatives, and finally from complete strangers. Everyone held an opinion. Everyone pointed fingers. Everyone judged. Seriously? He's gonna let a little girl die? A kidney. It's one kidney. You can live with one. After everything she suffered, it's the least he could do. What kind of human trash? A life for a life. It makes up for the damage. Some people went even further. A monster disguised as a victim. Anyone with a heart would donate without thinking. Maybe he did what the girl said, and that's why he doesn't want to help. That one hurt more than I expected because despite knowing Adrian was innocent, I had made him the target again. I had unleashed a digital mob, but in my mind I kept thinking the same thing. If he feels forced, he might say yes. Several hours passed. I reloaded the post every 5 minutes, waited, and checked his profile. Nothing. Until about 4 hours later, he responded. Instead of a remark or a private message, send a video. He shared a roughly 5-minute video on his profile, and it received hundreds of reactions in less than an hour. It began with him sitting on a bench, an empty park in the background, plain clothes, untidy hair, and deep, dark circles, yet with an expression I couldn't recognize. He started, "Hello, my name is Adrian. Many of you know me because of what my mother posted today. Some of you knew me before, others only from what you've read. I want to tell you something I never had the chance to say." He paused, took a long breath. 2 years ago, my sister accused me of touching her in front of my entire family, and without asking me or listening to me, they beat me, threw me out, and took everything from me. I was 18 years old at the time, and my world collapsed. I slept on the street, went hungry, lost my scholarship, had no one to call, slept in libraries, hid in public restrooms to wash myself, and considered suicide several times. He then presented a recording from his phone. It was a talk with Isabella in the hospital. Her crying, confessing, pleading for his pardon, claiming she made it all up, that she had wrecked him, and that she did not deserve his forgiveness. Then he looked back at the camera. I saved this recording not for revenge, but because I knew that one day someone would try to turn me into the villain again. He took a break. His voice cracked. I do not wish for my sister to die, ever. But I will not save the people who killed me while I was still alive. I will not give them a piece of my body as a currency for their redemption. I am not their second chance. He ended with a heartbreaking sentence. I am not a monster. I just learned to say no. And this time, I am the one breaking the silence. He stopped the video, and I stood there stunned, my phone in my hand. The notifications began coming in, but now the comments were intended for us. What kind of mother allows that? You are the real monsters. She lies, you attack, and he's supposed to save you? Disgusting. I hope you live with that guilt for the rest of your lives. The private messages were terrible. My sister has blocked me. My folks called me and cried. My sister-in-law wrote to say she hoped the same thing happened to me. Isabella saw the video. She saw everything. I discovered her crying alone in her bed. Everyone hates me, she said. Everyone, even him. I didn't know how to respond. I just hugged her, but I'm not sure if it was out of love or remorse. The video has gone viral. In less than 24 hours, Adrian's post was shared on Facebook groups, Reddit, TikTok accounts that collected family confessions, and even Twitter threads arguing whether he should give the kidney. It wasn't only our narrative anymore. Now everyone had an opinion. The majority supported him. Some argue that forgiveness does not force you to sacrifice yourself. Others replied, a kidney doesn't pay for a ruined life. And many simply said what I couldn't ignore, they deserve it. Isabella, who had before been just another victim in a hospital, was now viewed as a manipulator and liar. The phrase false accuser began emerging in the comments. One that cut me like a dagger was, let her die, just as she almost killed her brother. I had to erase the message, but it was too late. The damage had been done, but Adrian was not finished. A day after the first video, he posted another. This time, he wasn't speaking in the park. He was sitting at a table, holding a piece of paper in his hand. I've received a lot of questions, and the most common one is, why can't you just forgive? I'm going to try to explain it without anesthesia. His voice was calm, tired, and precise. I was accused of child abuse. There was no trial or proof, just a phrase shouted aloud, and that was enough. I lost my house, my schooling, and my name. I became a pariah, and no one wanted to be near me. Have you ever attempted to rent a room with the rumor that you abused someone? Have you ever tried to find work with a stain you can't erase, even if it's a lie? He held up a document. His medical records from a year ago show that he was treated for suicidal ideation, severe depression, and starvation. The first time I slept under a bridge, it was raining. The second night, I thought about swallowing all the pills I had. The third, someone spat on me in the street. He yelled, "Child abuser," at me, and I had no one to call. He put the document on the table. I don't need you to understand me. I just need you to listen. I don't want revenge. I do not wish for my sister's death, but I will not offer myself up as a martyr for a family that buried me alive. He picked up a photograph. It was of him and Isabella when she was a small child. They were smiling. His hand was shaky. I loved her. She was my sister. I made her breakfast, changed her clothes, waited for her after school. And when she said what she said, she didn't just destroy my life. She destroyed me. He tore the photograph in half. He remained silent for a few seconds. My kidney is not a currency of redemption. I am not the cure for anyone's guilt. I will not donate, and I will not apologize for it. He ended the video with a line that felt like a bullet. If you look for me at the funeral, I'll be in the back. Not to comfort, but to watch what you built and left to die. He put the camera away. I vomited after seeing it. That is not a metaphor. I practically vomited in the hospital bathroom, from terror, remorse, and the fact that I could no longer hide. When I returned to the room, Isabella was awake. Her eyes were inflamed. She didn't say anything, only said, "Does he hate me?" I didn't know what to reply because I had no idea how he felt, only what I had done and what was coming. The doctors informed us that her condition was deteriorating, that the days were numbered, that there was no longer time to wait for regular donors, and that Adrian remained the most compatible candidate. But he had already mentioned that there would be no donations. That night, my spouse burst. "Damn selfish, ungrateful bastard, let him rot wherever he is." I tried to calm him down, telling him that cursing would not help. "And what do you expect me to do? Applaud him for letting his sister die?" He isolated himself in the kitchen and smashed a dish. I sat alone. In solitude, I grieved as I glanced at images on my phone of them as children when they were innocent. I cried like I never had before because I knew Isabella was going to die. And it wasn't due to a shortage of kidneys. It was for something far worse, a family's refusal to listen, believe, and love unreservedly. The room smelt like disinfectant and sadness. Isabella was unconscious and linked to more machinery than her body. Her skin was nearly translucent. Every time the alarm went off, I held my breath. The doctor would come in, check, change something, and depart with the same expression. Containment, not solution. Only waiting. The donation list was not moving. The compatibilities were minor. The chances are nearly negligible. And Adrian was gone. After his second video, he vanished entirely, deleting his social media accounts, changing his phone number, leaving no trace. Nobody knew where he was. And to be honest, I wasn't sure I wanted him found. Not for his sake, but because I was concerned about what my husband would do if he ever saw him again. The days passed like sluggish blades. The hateful messages were no longer visible. They were now private. Some wrote to wish me strength. Others would tell me I deserved every moment of pain. A woman I didn't know sent me a message. "Proud of yourself now? You raised a daughter who lied and a son you destroyed." I hung up the phone. I did not switch it on again. One morning in the early hours, the doctor summoned us. The sentence was direct. "Prepare yourselves. She's no longer responding. It's just a matter of waiting for the moment." I walked out into the hallway. I slid from the wall to the floor. I did not cry. I just hugged my knees. My hubby didn't say anything. He was pale and shocked. He was not the same person who had beaten his son that night. He was a broken statue, waiting to be crushed totally. I returned to the room. I grasped Isabella's hand and whispered, "I'm here, my love. Mommy's here." There was no response, just a continuous beep from the cardiac monitor. I closed my eyes and prayed for the first time, not to a god, not for a miracle. I asked for time, just a little more, just a bit more. A day later, we got a letter with no return address. There is no name, only a sheet of paper folded in 3. It came from Adrian. "Don't search for me. I'm not going to change my mind. I don't want her to die, but I won't take part in a forced redemption play." Isabella lied, and you believed her. I was sentenced without a trial, and all I wanted for was to be heard, which no one granted. So don't ask me to give you my body now. You've already taken my soul. They believe death redeems, but I died 2 years ago. Her end is not my fault. It is an echo of her origin. I hope you find peace, but don't search for it in me. There was no signature, only a photo of him smiling from years ago when he still considered us family. Isabella died a week later. There were no screams or warnings, just a flat tone and a straight line across the screen. My husband collapsed. I did not yell. I did not cry. I just held her until they removed her out of my arms. The funeral was modest and frigid. The majority of the family had withdrawn themselves, some out of shame and others out of hatred. Nobody knew what to say to us. And Adrian, he did come. He arrived in quiet, sat in the rear, did not cry, look at us, or approach the casket. Finally, he rose up, left a single flower, and walked away silently. Today, I'm writing from a silent house. My husband no longer speaks. He spends his days watching television with the volume turned off. I stroll through the empty rooms with my daughter's clothes still folded on her bed. Every now and then, I look back at her last photo when she was still breathing and had a chance. And I think of Adrian, of his words, his broken stare, of what we did and did not do. And I remind myself, death does not come alone. It carries remorse and memories with it. And neither can be buried. One suggestion: I read your whole story. I sat in silence and could only think, what an insane mother. You literally killed him in life and then you expect him to save you. After you took everything from him, now you're asking for an organ. If I were him, I wouldn't have given it to you either. In fact, I'd be in the line of people spitting in your face. I hope his gaze haunts you until your last day. 2 further comments. You left him without a home, without food, without emotional support, without a future, and you wanted him to risk his health for you. How can you even ask why he didn't want to donate? The answer is obvious and painful, because you killed him first. A 3rd comment. Your story is the closest thing I've read to a slow-motion murder. Adrian died when you threw him out on the street like trash, and now you're crying because he wouldn't save the one who lied. Did it not occur to you that every time he saw his sister, he was reliving the trauma, the nerve, the ego, the total lack of humanity? A 4th comment follows. The way you minimize everything you did is terrifying. My husband hit him. It sounds like you're saying he spilled his coffee. Your son was physically assaulted, thrown out, abandoned, and vilified by everyone. And you recount it as if it were an uncomfortable anecdote. What kind of emotional psychopath are you? The 5th comment is, you know what the worst part of all this was? That your daughter confessed she lied and you still decided to use her tragedy to manipulate your son again. You learned nothing. You just changed tactics. First it was guilt, then fear, then public blackmail. You are the nightmare of any human being with a mother. The 6th comment, I refuse to feel sorry for you. You made your son's life impossible, then you tried to paint him as a monster for not donating a damn kidney. You used him like a piece of meat, and when he said no, you tried to manipulate the entire internet. How shameful! What moral depravity! I hope you never find peace. The 7th comment, Adrian is a hero for still being alive after what you did to him. He was the one who deserved help. He was the one who needed urgent therapy. But you were too busy protecting your parental egos to see that you were destroying him. And even today, you continue to blame him. Monstrous. The 8th comment. What did you expect? That he would give you the kidney and then you'd all pose for a reconciled family photo? This isn't a fairy tale. This is real life. And in real life, the people you destroy don't come back when it's convenient for you. They don't forgive you automatically. They don't save you just because you're bleeding crocodile tears. Comment 9 is as follows. You used his pain as a public weapon. You exposed him with his full name. You humiliated him after having already thrown him onto the street. And you wonder why he blocked you. The question should be, how did he not sue you? Because he had more than enough reason. It's a miracle you're not in jail. And it's a miracle he's sane. A 10th comment. Isabella didn't die from lack of a kidney. She died from a lie and from parents who didn't know how to handle it. The blame isn't Adrian's, it's yours. You killed her with silence, with denial, with manipulation. And now you want to lay the corpse at his feet? I don't buy it. I'm not swallowing that. My dad chose my brother over me. Even I ran the farm solo for over 10 years. So I left, and now the farm is falling apart without me. My dad said I'd be fine on my own, so he gave the farm to my brother with 3 kids, who hasn't visited in 2 years and plans to cash out. Here's how my story started. After my mother died, I returned to our little family farm at the age of 34 to assist my father in keeping it operational. My younger brother, 31, lives 2 states away with his wife and 3 children. He works in the city and only visits once or twice a year, so he has had no involvement in the farm. Over the years, I've primarily been in charge of the farm's operations. It's a little business with barely any profit. Most years we barely break even, which is enough to pay property taxes and keep the place running for my father's sake. My father continues to assist whenever possible. It provides him a purpose after his mother's death, but the majority of the actual labor and management rests on me. I am in charge of everything, from caring for the animals and crops to maintaining the equipment and managing all of the bookkeeping and paperwork. And I do all of this on top of working a part-time job in town to supplement my income because the farm does not pay well. Essentially, I've been working on the farm unpaid, living there, and helping out whenever someone needed it. Here's the problem. My father recently said that he is rewriting his will and intends to give the land to my brother. His explanation is that my brother has a family to think about because of his children, whereas I am better capable of caring for myself. In other words, because I'm single with no children and my brother is married with children, Dad believes he deserves the inheritance more than I do. I didn't want to yell at my father, but I did question if he was serious. I replied something like, "What about all the work I've done here?" And he became defensive, saying it's not about keeping score and that in a family, you assist each other out. He minimized my concerns, hinting that I shouldn't worry about who gets what and that he believes I'll be fine on my own because I'm capable. That truly hurt. I have devoted over a decade of my life to this farm. I put my personal life on hold and moved here to help Dad and maintain our family's land. In contrast, my brother has never mowed a field or helped with harvesting. He's not a nasty person. His life took him somewhere else. But now, Dad is stating that the farm, which only exists because I've been working on it, will be given to my brother, who had no involvement in it, simply because he has children and I don't. It feels like a massive slap to the face. I'm not concerned about money in the sense that this isn't a profitable property. It is primarily about the principle. If my brother gets the farm, I believe he would just sell it for cash because he has neither passion or skill to run it. That would mean that everything I've done to keep this farm alive, improve it, and preserve it has been in vain. In addition, I would lose both my home and my job at the same time, while my brother would benefit from a sale. I haven't had a serious sit-down confrontation with Dad since that initial shocking talk. He seemed to dismiss the subject by saying, "Family isn't about keeping score," making me feel selfish for even bringing it up. I feel bad because I do not want to be greedy or ungrateful. I know I return to aid out of love, not with the expectation of a reward, but at the same time, I feel extremely underappreciated and taken for granted. It's as if he doesn't value my efforts simply because I'm the daughter, and in his opinion, girls only help out. I'm so conflicted and hurt. I'm not sure how to approach my father without getting into a confrontation, and I haven't told my brother about it. So, Reddit. Am I stupid to be furious that my father intends to give the family farm to my brother, despite the fact that I've been working on it for years? Is my frustration justified, or am I simply entitled? I really need some perspective on this scenario. Comment 1. NTA. Your father is clearly taking advantage of you. He's practically treating you as free labor while rewarding your brother, who accomplished nothing. That's just unfair. You have every right to be offended, and you should seriously consider not working for free. Your father is displaying obvious favoritism or perhaps an outmoded belief that the son should inherit the farm. You're not mistaken here. OP's response: it definitely feels like I'm being taken for granted. Comment 2. I am very sorry you are going through this. Have you truly sat down with your father and discussed how this makes you feel? Maybe he doesn't appreciate how much this is affecting you or how much effort you've put in since you haven't fully sold your side of the story. It could help to carefully convey to him what you've told us here. Also, does your brother actually want the farm? If he is aware of the circumstance, he may be willing to support you. In any case, clear communication is essential. OP responded, "You're correct. I have not had a genuine heart-to-heart talk with him yet. I sort of froze up when he started the change. I think I need to have a proper conversation with him about it. As difficult as it may be, I'm not sure if my brother knows or what he would think. He has never expressed interest in the farm, but yeah, I'll try to discuss it gently with Dad and see if it helps. Comment 3. YTA. Boo-hoo. You decided to go back and play farming. That does not imply you can complain about not being given the land. It is your dad's property, not your own. He can leave it to anybody he wishes, and it stands to reason that he would give it to the child who has a family to maintain. You sound entitled and demand a reward for what you were meant to do. If you do not like it, you are free to leave. But don't try to shame your poor father simply because you regret squandering your own time. Ulp responded, I don't expect a payment for assisting my family. I did it because I cared, yet it is difficult not to feel upset in this situation. I understand that it is ultimately his decision, but I do not believe it is wrong to feel disrespected. I am not trying to guilt him. I simply want him to realize where I'm coming from, and if nothing changes, I may have to leave. Even though that's terrible. Update 1. First and foremost, thank you to everyone who commented on my initial post. I followed the advice to sit down with my father and discuss things through. Unfortunately, our conversation did not go as smoothly as I had intended. I attempted to convey to my father how I felt, how I had committed years of my life to keeping the farm functioning, and how it ached to hear he was going to give it to my brother who had never been involved. He appeared uncomfortable and defensive. He basically told me that I shouldn't think of family inheritance as recompense for effort, and that I was wrong to make it all about keeping score. His statements were something along the lines of, this isn't about tallying up who did more. In a family, you do things for each other because you care, not for some reward. He reiterated that my brother had a family to support and that I'm more independent. So, in his opinion, this is about looking out for the family members who require the greatest assistance. I mentioned that it felt unjust, and he answered, life isn't always fair, and inheritance isn't a paycheck. That pretty much ended the conversation because I didn't know how to react without getting into a dispute. I also questioned if my brother was aware of any of this. Dad told me that he had not addressed the change to my brother at all. He responded as if it was no big thing, saying it was just estate planning and I shouldn't be too concerned. That surprised me because it seemed like such a big issue. The entire conversation left me feeling dejected. My father clearly sees all of the work I do on the farm as something that someone would naturally do for her family. He does not consider it as an effort that entitles me to ownership or stake. It's simply expected of me. Realizing that was quite painful. So, at this time, nothing has actually changed. Dad is keeping to his plan, and I'm still here doing the daily farming chores, but I'm becoming bitter. I haven't approached my brother about it yet because he is still in the dark and lives far away. I honestly don't know where to go from here. This scenario just feels dreadful and unfair, and talking to Dad didn't help. I suppose I will have to find out the next step. Maybe it involves my brother, but I am at a loss right now. Comment 1. This is really wrong. To be honest, it sounds like your father has an old school or misogynistic mindset. For example, the daughter is expected to work out of duty, while the son, who accomplished nothing, receives the award since he is the male in the household. You are not even not the asshole. You have every right to feel hurt. The OP responded, it certainly feels like a way. Unfortunately, I'm beginning to suspect it's a lot of that old-fashioned thinking. Things hurt to think that's how he sees things, but I appreciate you confirming that it isn't okay. Comment 2. If your father refuses to see reason, you may need to start looking after yourself. It is not fair to you to continue working yourself to the bone for nothing if he is simply going to give everything to your brother. Perhaps start by reducing your agricultural tasks or getting a paid employment elsewhere to guarantee your future. It's unfortunate, but your father is taking you for granted and you deserve better. The OP responded, to be honest, I have been thinking the same thing. I adore the farm, but I can't devote my entire life to something that will never be mine in the end. The thought of leaving makes me feel guilty, but you are correct that I must consider my own future if he does not. Comment 3. You should certainly include your brother in this chat. There's a chance he doesn't want the farm. If he's a sensible guy, he might agree with you, or at least admit to your father that he has no interest in it. At the absolute least, speaking with him could reveal whether he intends to keep or sell it if it comes to him. Knowing this may provide you with additional leverage or knowledge the next time you speak with your father. OP responded, "That is an excellent point. I haven't spoken with my brother yet, mainly because it's difficult and I'm not sure how to bring it up, but I'd like to know what he thinks and what he'd do if Dad actually follows through. I'll try to have that chat with him soon, especially if I can't reach Dad in any other way." Update 2. Many readers pushed me to speak with my brother, so I did. My brother and his family came to see Dad and me briefly. A brief weekend getaway. I took the chance to speak with him about what had happened. I basically told him straight out that Dad was going to leave the farm to him in his will. He seemed astonished. He appeared to have learned about it for the first time here. I asked him hypothetical questions about what he would do if he inherited the property. Would he like to keep it or handle it somehow? He was quite honest. He responded something like, I can't exactly move out here and start farming. My life is in the city. The kids have school and I have my job. In other words, he recognized he wouldn't be able to use the land personally. Then he shrugged and said he'd probably sell it if the opportunity presented itself. I'm not going to lie, hearing him say that out loud irritated me, even though I expected it. I informed him that I had spent over a decade working on the farm and didn't want it sold to some developer or stranger. I was hoping he hadn't thought about it from my perspective and would reconsider. He seemed uneasy and muttered something like, "Yeah, I get that. This is, I don't know, it's complicated. I'd have to think about it." That was about the end of our conversation. He did not explicitly deny the bequest or advise that I receive any share. He primarily appeared uncomfortable. I suppose he doesn't want to be the bad guy, but he plainly sees the farm as a burden or an asset to be sold rather than something to retain in the family. After that chat, I felt quite down. It verified my greatest fears. If Dad goes through with this, the farm will be sold as soon as it passes to my brother. I'm trying not to resent my brother. It's not his fault Dad set this up, and he's simply being practical about his own predicament. But it still seemed like a blow since it meant that all of my efforts here would be in vain in the end. So that is where things stand. Dad has yet to expressly tell my brother, "Hey, I'm leaving you the farm." So my brother is waiting for that news from Dad. I imagine I haven't told Dad about my conversation with my brother yet either. We just had the visit, they departed, and now I'm processing everything. I am not sure how or when to bring this up with Dad. Like, by the way, I talked to brother and he said he'd sell the farm. I expect the conversation to be tense, but at least I now have a better picture. If nothing changes, the farm's future is effectively nothing. It's a very disappointing conclusion, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it. Comment 1. You now have concrete evidence that your brother would sell the farm. I think you should notify your father right away. If your father's entire argument was based on family and preservation, he must understand that his plan means the farm will not be passed down to future generations. If he still insists on giving it to your brother while knowing it will be sold, he is incredibly stubborn and short-sighted. Lay everything out for him. Giving the farm to your brother means it's gone. Perhaps this will wake him up. OP response. I agree that he should hear this quickly. I'm working up the guts to have the conversation. It won't be simple to inform him that his magnificent idea would entirely backfire. But you're right, he has to face that truth. I sincerely hope that information causes him to reconsider, because it is exactly what I was scared of. Comment 2. I have to say that I was disappointed by your brother's reply. I understand that his life is elsewhere, but he didn't even consider trying to maintain the farm or acknowledging your years of work. He simply answered, "Yeah, I'll sell it," without skipping a beat. A stand-up guy might have told your father, "Give it to sis, she's the one who earned it." At the very least, he could have offered a split or plan that included you. It seems somewhat greedy that he would simply grab the money. I understand your father is the main issue here, but I'd be hurt by my brother as well. OP response. I was a little disappointed too. I don't think he intends to injure me. In his opinion, he is simply being reasonable about what he would do. But certainly, a small part of me hoped he'd say something like, "You've been doing all the work. Maybe it should go to you," or that he'd at least reassure me he wouldn't screw me over. He actually didn't. I'm not trying to make him look bad, but it bothered me that he didn't seem to appreciate what I'd done. Update 3. It's been a few months now, and I've been discreetly planning for the possibility of having to construct a life outside of the farm. After reading the suggestions here and seeing how things were going, I updated my resume and started exploring other options in agriculture. I haven't gone yet, but I've become less interested in long-term planning for the farm. I suppose my father has noticed. My father recently confronted me. He inquired why I appeared distracted and uninterested in the upcoming season's plans. I decided to be honest. I told him that I was considering my choices outside of the farm because it had become evident to me that I didn't have a long-term future here. I tried to express it as nicely as possible, but I did not conceal the fact. I can't keep putting all of my time and effort into a farm that I won't inherit or own. Well, that blew up. My father became really agitated and emotional. He basically blamed me for abandoning him. He exclaimed, "So you're just going to leave me here all alone in my old age? After everything, you're walking away?" He went on to say how much he thought I cared about our family and the property, and how unhappy my mother would be if she found out I was willing to just up and leave. He phrased it as if I had betrayed the family. I did my best to remain cool. I told him that I had been here for 8 years because I loved the family, but I also needed to think about my own life. I told him directly that it's difficult to justify staying when I know I'll end up with nothing, and that if my brother inherits the property, he'll probably sell it anyway. I did explain that my brother had told me quite clearly that he was going to sell. Dad only shook his head and mumbled something like, "You don't know that for sure. He might realize its value to the family when the time comes." It was as if he was in denial or didn't want to hear it. The talk was terrible. We were both angry and hurt at the end of it. My father thinks I'm being selfish and disloyal. From my perspective, he is the one who put me in an impossible situation. I told him, "I'm not trying to hurt you, Dad, but I have to have a life that's mine. I can't work myself into the ground here and then have it all taken away." He just said, "I never asked you to sacrifice anything. You chose to come back. If you want to go, go." But he said it in a bitter way. So yeah, we're kind of at a standstill. He knows I'm serious about leaving and he's upset. I feel guilty and sad too. I'm sorry things have reached this point. I wish he could see my perspective without feeling assaulted or betrayed. It's as if there is no positive outcome here. If I stay, I am basically screwing myself over. He believes I'm taking advantage of him if I leave. This is a dreadful situation. At the present, we're only discussing the basics of running the farm on a daily basis. I'm still doing my tasks while he's doing his, but there's a lot of tension. I honestly don't know what will happen. I've sent out a couple of job applications, so we'll see what happens. I haven't formally given up on him, but he knows I'm close, and it's devastating for both of us in different ways. Comment. This seems like a no-win situation. In some ways, I sympathize with your father. He's elderly, probably afraid of being alone and watching the farm die, but he took it on himself by not treating you fairly. You have been wonderfully patient and generous. Choosing to live your own life is not selfish. It is necessary. You offered him multiple chances to do the right thing. If you have a good work chance, you should seize it without hesitation. Hopefully, your father will ultimately realize that his actions have consequences. In the meantime, take care of yourself. OP answered. I appreciate it. It's a tragic situation all around. I feel awful for my father, and I know he is worried about the farm collapsing or being alone, but you are correct. I gave him every opportunity to make things right, but he refused. I need to watch out for myself now. If an outside job becomes available, I will most likely accept it, no matter how difficult it will be to go. I hope he understands someday, but I can't count on it. Update 4. A lot has happened during the last few months. The big news is that I landed a new job. I was given a position overseeing operations at another farm about 3 hours away. It's a larger commercial farm, and they were impressed by my experience managing my family farm. The compensation and perks are pretty good, which is something I'm not used to. After working for free for so long, I decided to take the job. I gave my dad a full 2 months notice that I was leaving. I wanted to give him as much time as possible to prepare, as my departure is obviously a significant change. When I told him I was going, he freaked out. This was a distinct reaction from the previous rage. This time, he was panicking. He begged me to stay and promised we could work anything out. He even agreed to modify his will again. This time, he offered to split the property 50-50 with my brother if I didn't leave. I did not agree for a number of reasons. I calmly conveyed to him that sharing farm ownership is not a viable solution. If I owned half and my brother owned half, he could still force a sale of the entire land or sell his piece to someone else, such as a developer, which would essentially damage the farm. I asked my father to think about how that scenario would play out, and I believe that made him pause. For the first time, I watched him realize that his compromise approach would not secure the farm. I believe that was the point at which he realized I was correct about the risk. He went quiet and then stated he needed to speak with my brother. According to what I gathered and what he later told me, that phone chat with my brother was a genuine eye-opener for my father. He directly asked my brother what his plans would be if he inherited even a portion of the land. Apparently, my brother informed him, "Yeah, Dad, I'm going to sell it." I assumed he was aware of this. My brother wasn't nasty, but he was honest that he doesn't have the time or desire to manage a farm, and that the money from selling it would be more beneficial to his family. I'm not sure if my father truly grasped it until he heard it directly from my brother just now. Their conversation became quite heated, at least on my father's side. I wasn't on the call, but my father seemed noticeably disturbed afterwards. I overheard him yelling about how he couldn't believe we'd just give up our family's land for cash. I believe he was frustrated with the situation and possibly at himself, because what did he expect? He now realizes that his approach would have resulted in exactly the opposite conclusion he desired. At this moment, my father is scrambling. He knows I'll be departing in a few weeks. My notice time is approaching its end. He began trying to find staff to replace all of the work I perform. Unsurprisingly, it is not easy. For starters, competent farm labor or a manager costs significantly more than he ever had to pay me because I worked for free except housing and board. He honestly told me the other day in a disappointed tone, "I had no idea it would be this expensive to find someone to do what you do." I feel sorry for him. I really do. He's an elderly man who is concerned about losing both his child and me moving out, as well as the viability of the farm. My contributions were not limited to what the family does. They held genuine economic worth. And now he sees it plainly because he must pay someone else. The farm's finances are already strained thin, and recruiting workers or a farm manager will eat into our slim profit margins. I'm not sure how long he will be able to keep things going without me. I'm now packing my belongings and planning to move out in a few weeks to start my new career. My father and I are on slightly better terms now than we were after the major fight in Update 3. I believe he is too fatigued and worried to continue battling with me, and he has accepted that I will leave. He hasn't explicitly stated it, but I believe he understands why this is happening and accepts responsibility for it. We've come to a tragic understanding. To answer the question that everyone has been asking since the beginning, no, I do not believe I am the bad guy in this case. I don't think my father or brother intended to hurt me, but their actions did. And now, we're all living with the aftermath. It's a bad, convoluted situation with no clear winners. I'll go on and do what's best for me. If the farm becomes too much for my father to manage, he may have to consider selling it in the future. That aspect is now up to him. I'm sad that this is how things ended. Thank you to everyone who followed along and provided advice. This has been a difficult journey, but I am confident that brighter days are coming, at least for me. My sister-in-law mocked my pregnancy, demanded my twin names, and tried to use them first. But I clapped back in a way she never saw coming. I'm Leia, 32, and I've been married to Jack, 34, for 4 years. We have a 3-year-old son and are currently expecting twins, a boy and a girl. This situation includes Jack's sister-in-law, Miranda, 36, who is married to his brother, Tony, 40. They've been married for 7 years. Miranda and I are extreme opposites. She is outspoken, the center of attention at family events, and has strong opinions on everything. I prefer to be quiet and observe people. When Jack first introduced me to his family, I informed him that Miranda and I would never be close friends. We've had a cordial but distant friendship ever since. The trouble began 3 years ago with my first pregnancy. Miranda and Tony have tried to have children for years without success. When someone mentioned my pregnancy at family dinners, Miranda would either change the conversation or make comments about how pregnancy was not that unique because millions of women go through it every day. Then she'd spend significant periods of time in the restroom. Miranda unexpectedly offered to plan my baby shower around the middle of my pregnancy. I gently declined, stating that my mother and sister had already covered it. She persisted for weeks until I had to be more honest about not wanting her involved. The oddest behavior began after we revealed that we were having a son. Miranda got preoccupied with learning what we wanted to name him. Every family gathering, phone conversation, and text message, she would inquire about the name. When I told her we weren't going to share it till birth, she got obviously angry and commented on how secretive we were. Jack and I chose a traditional Irish name that was uncommon in our area. Miranda couldn't stop gushing about how unique and beautiful our son's name was once we revealed it. She'd bring it up at every opportunity, telling everyone how she'd never heard a more wonderful name before. This continued for months. Fast forward to this year. Miranda finally became pregnant about the same time that I conceived the twins. She was approximately 9 weeks ahead of me. When we announced we were having twins, she resumed the name questioning, but this time she wanted both names because we were having one of each. Her remarks grew increasingly offensive. She'd make comments about how with twins, I'd probably gain twice as much weight and never recover. When someone congratulated us at a family cookout, she loudly proclaimed that we had clearly gotten pregnant on purpose just to steal her thunder. Everyone knew we had been trying for a second kid for more than a year. I opted to ignore her comments entirely. Miranda loves on drama and arguments, so I felt the best way to irritate her was to offer her no response at all. After weeks of her repeatedly asking about the twin names, I became skeptical. I asked Jack whether he believed Miranda wanted to know our names so she could use them first, given she was due earlier. He chuckled at first, but soon understood I was serious. After some thought, he admitted that it was plausible. I then decided to put my notion to the test. Jack's father was celebrating his 61st birthday at our place the following weekend. We had been steadily putting together a nursery for the twins in our spare bedroom, but it wasn't ready yet. I devised a strategy to leave false identities somewhere Miranda may discover them if she went digging. I went online and created custom wall decals with 2 names that I liked but were not near to our final choices, Rose Arwen and Luke Max. I completed the entire ordering process but stopped just before completing payment. Instead, I printed the final order confirmation sheet, which included both names plainly. The night before the party, I folded the paper and put it inside the nursery dresser's middle drawer, giving the impression that it had been haphazardly shoved in there. I made sure one corner stood out just enough to be noticed if the drawer was opened. Jack thought my scheme was absurd, but he agreed to a $23 bet that Miranda would not snoop. We were busy hosting the party at our place, so we didn't pay attention to Miranda's movements throughout the evening. The next morning, I checked on the nursery. Everything looked the same. The paper was still in the drawer exactly where I'd left it. Jack and I assumed the test had failed and forgot about it. But then I realized something intriguing. Miranda ceased inquiring about our baby names after the party. For someone who had been bothering us every day for weeks, the sudden silence seemed strange. Miranda gave birth to her baby 4 weeks later. Jack and I visited the hospital to greet our baby nephew. When I asked Miranda what the baby's name was, she smiled and said, Luke Max. She stared directly at me when she said it, as if she was expecting a great reaction. Instead of appearing offended, I became overly enthusiastic. I raved about how beautiful the name was, how perfect it sounded, and how fortunate they were to choose such a lovely combination. I continued for a full minute as Miranda's attitude shifted from smug enjoyment to uncertainty to apparent frustration. Jack tried not to laugh alongside me. Later, in the elevator, he gave me $23 while shaking his head. We didn't see Miranda and Tony for a few weeks, giving them time with their new kid. Miranda, according to Jack's mother, appeared to be struggling more than expected with new parenthood, probably due to baby blues. When I informed my sister about the event, she laughed at first, but then thought I was being harsh by setting Miranda up like way. I can't decide whether what I did was wrong. Miranda was making my pregnancy difficult with her continuous demands and harsh comments. The phony names weren't even names I wanted to use someday, but perhaps I went too far with the trap. Should I feel horrible about it? Update 1. The issue with Miranda has become more difficult than I had anticipated. First, let me explain why Miranda and I never got along. The problem began when Jack and I became engaged after only 9 months of dating. Miranda told family members that I was hurrying Jack into marriage and had possibly ensnared him in some way. When Jack's grandma mentioned how excited she was to have another granddaughter, Miranda made a point of adding she hoped Jack was certain of his decision. Our wedding made everything worse. Jack and I had a typical church service for 151 guests, followed by a reception at a country club. We went on an 11-day honeymoon in Ireland. Meanwhile, Miranda and Tony had married at City Hall in front of only their immediate family, followed by dinner at a chain restaurant. Tony proposed after Miranda gave him an ultimatum concerning marriage, which the entire family was aware of. Miranda also battled with the fact that Jack's family welcomed me right away. His parents and I share similar hobbies and characteristics. His grandmother, who everyone refers to as Nana, immediately began engaging me in her weekly shopping excursions and Sunday dinners. Miranda and Tony had been together for 4 years before their wedding, but Nana had never warmed up to her in the same manner. The contrast became even more stark after Jack and I purchased our suburban home 3 years ago. Miranda and Tony continue to rent a small flat in the city because they cannot afford to buy property in their neighborhood. Jack and I both have steady corporate jobs with nice benefits, whereas Miranda and Tony work in retail with uncertain hours. Miranda had too much to drink at Tony's birthday party approximately a year ago and got into a fight with him over money. In front of everyone, she stated that she should have married Jack rather than Tony because Jack had his life together. The entire household went silent. I was not even surprised. I assumed Miranda had affections for Jack for years based on how she behaved around him. I answered by asking whose brother she was referring to, which would be incorrect anyhow, given that Jack and Tony have a younger brother, Neo, who is just 26 years old. Miranda lost her cool entirely and began yelling at me for twisting her words. She said the next day that she did not recall saying anything wrong. Now for the latest update. Jack's mother came over yesterday to discuss arrangements for my baby shower next month. I'm due in late January, but twins usually arrive early, so we're prepping for December. While she was here, I asked how Miranda and Tony were adjusting to parenting. Jack's mother sat down with a heavy sigh, saying it was complicated. Miranda and Tony, she claims, were battling about baby names even before the kid was born. Miranda had spent months compiling lists of female names, but refused to consider male names. When Tony inquired, Miranda asserted that the baby was certainly a female. If it was a boy, she intended to give him the name Tony Jr. This sparked a heated disagreement because Tony's older son from a prior relationship is not named after him. The youngster lives with his mother in another state and visits her twice a year. Tony believed that naming the new baby Jr. would be unfair to his first son. Miranda, according to Jack's mother, convinced herself she was having a daughter because she wanted one so much. Miranda refused to find out the gender while pregnant for fear of being disappointed. She insisted on enjoying her pregnancy, believing she was bearing a girl. Miranda's yearning for a girl grew stronger as a result of her family relationships. Jack's mother is the only daughter in a family of 3 brothers, and she has 3 sons herself. My son was her first grandchild, yet my daughter would be her first granddaughter in decades. Jack's mother burst into tears of joy when we announced we were carrying a girl. Jack's mother has always been nice to Miranda, but they have never bonded. She is smitten with my little son in the sweetest way. Every week, they organize activities for grandmothers and grandsons. Miranda observed this bond develop and grew persuaded that having a daughter would finally cause Jack's mother to love her in the same manner. When Miranda gave birth to another grandson instead of the granddaughter she had hoped for, something changed in her thoughts. The hospital scene was considerably messier than I expected. Miranda and Tony were still debating over names when Jack and I arrived. Miranda had never mentioned Luke Max to Tony until that point. Tony was stunned and indignant when she told us what had happened. He had no idea where those names came from and disliked them completely. Tony refused to sign the birth certificate bearing such names. They left the hospital without providing a name for the infant. According to state legislation, parents have 11 days after the birth to register a name. Miranda ultimately told Tony that he could do anything he wanted since she didn't care anymore. Tony chose Bruce Rocky. Bruce is named after his favorite basketball player, while Rocky is named after a boxer. He preserved the Rocky from Miranda's announced name, but otherwise modified everything. So, the infant was never given the name Luke Max. Miranda's attempt to utilize my fictitious names lasted precisely as long as it took Tony to put his foot down. Miranda, according to Jack's mother, has become withdrawn since returning home from the hospital. She meets the baby's basic requirements but appears distant from anything else. She broke down crying in front of Jack's mother last week, stating she'll probably never have a daughter due to her age and their previous fertility issues. Despite everything Miranda has put me through, I now feel awful for her. Having a healthy baby should be enough. But I understand feeling disappointed after months of building up expectations. The irony is that Miranda's breakdown may bring her closer to Jack's mother, as they now share the experience of only having sons while desperately wanting daughters. Miranda still has no idea I set her up with the fictitious names, and I haven't notified anyone in the family about my scheme. Some may argue that I should confess, but I don't see the point in exacerbating her current situation. I'm not regretful about what I did. Miranda made my pregnancy uncomfortable with her incessant demands and rude comments, but I'm also not cruel enough to kick someone who is already down. Update 2. Miranda discovered my name trap, and the consequences have been far worse than I anticipated. I gave birth to twins in early January, Rose and Frodo Jack. Yes, Rose was one of my fictitious names, but it was also on our list for females long before the trap. Pure coincidence, which resulted in further trouble later. Both babies are healthy, and we're adjusting well to having 3 children under 3 years old. Jack took 2 weeks off work to help, and his mother has been coming over every day to help with the elder children. The difficulty began when Jack's mother was carrying Rose and noted how lovely her name was. She stated she had seen it recently but couldn't remember where. I made a general statement about it being a common name. That evening, Jack's mother called me. She recalls seeing the name Rose written on a piece of paper in our nursery dresser drawer the night of Jack's father's birthday party. She explained that she was searching for baby wipes at the party when one of the children had an accident. I informed her that there were supplies in the nursery dresser. When she opened the drawer, she noticed the corner of a paper peeking out and tugged it to push it down properly. She had glanced at it and seen both names, Rose Arwen and Luke Max. Jack's mother assumed those were our chosen names and didn't think much of it at the time. But when Miranda introduced Luke Max at the hospital, Jack's mother recognized Miranda had read the same newspaper elsewhere. Miranda had snooped in our nursery, discovered what she believed to be our genuine names, and attempted to use one of them first. Jack's mother was furious that Miranda had gone through our personal belongings and that I felt the need to build a trap. I decided to give her the entire truth about my concerns and the phony name arrangement. Jack's mother was not pleased with the deception, but she understood why I had done it. She was angrier about Miranda's probing than my trap. The trouble arose when Jack's mother could not keep the story to herself. She told Jack's father, who notified Tony during a phone call about something else altogether. Tony confronted Miranda, who initially denied everything but later admitted to looking through our dresser drawers. According to Tony, Miranda broke down totally when she discovered we had duped her. She stated that she had planned to use any term she could find to hurt me and make herself feel better about her own disappointments. She'd spent months resenting my pregnancy and wishing to ruin something for me in the same way that her reproductive issues had ruined everything for her. Tony was upset, not only because of the spying, but also because Miranda admitted that she tried to name their son specifically to hurt me. He informed her that she needed to apologize to both Jack and me immediately. Miranda declined. She claimed I had humiliated her by setting her up, and she refused to apologize for anything. She said that I was manipulative and had turned the entire family against her. This resulted in a massive brawl between Miranda and Tony. He pointed out that she had brought all of this upon herself by searching through our personal items and attempting to take our baby names out of spite. Miranda accused him of choosing my side over his own wife's. The disagreement heated up when Tony said that he had never liked the name Luke Max and was relieved they had ended up with Bruce Rocky instead. Miranda screamed that she despised the name Bruce Rocky and wished she hadn't had a baby at all if it wasn't going to be female. Tony moved out that night and has been residing with Jack's folks for the last 3 weeks. He has been caring for baby Bruce throughout the day while Miranda works, and then returning him to her at night. They barely talk to each other. Jack's mother is stuck in the middle, trying to help with both grandsons while Tony and Miranda work out their marriage. She is disturbed about the situation and concerned that all of the strain would impact baby Bruce. Miranda has been telling everybody who will listen that I am a bad person who ruined her marriage via my scheming. She has convinced some of Tony's coworkers and extended family members that I am manipulative and harsh. Jack is unhappy with his brother and Miranda for involving our newborn babies in their turmoil. He wants to cut all touch with them until they resolve their issues. I'm inclined to agree, but Jack's mother begs us not to exacerbate the situation by further dividing the family. I wasn't expecting my small test to reveal this level of dysfunction in Miranda and Tony's relationship. I only wanted to confirm my thoughts about the name theft. There is now a baby caught between two parents who are unable to be in the same room. Part of me feels bad for starting this series of events, but a larger part of me believes Miranda's behavior was bound to produce difficulties soon. I simply happened to be the catalyst that brought everything to light. Update 3. Miranda and Tony separated, and she has vanished from our lives entirely. The divorce process progressed fast because they had only been married for 6 years and did not own much jointly. Tony maintained their apartment lease and furniture. Miranda moved back in with her parents in another city around 2 hours away. The custody arrangement for infant Bruce became the most serious concern. Miranda first wanted full custody, stating Tony's work schedule was too unpredictable for him to be a responsible parent. Tony responded by bringing up Miranda's remark that she wished she hadn't had the baby. Jack's mother ended up testifying about Miranda's behavior during the name dispute, including her admission that she tried to intentionally damage me. The judge was unimpressed by someone who would use their baby's name as a weapon against family members. Tony received primary custody, with Miranda receiving supervised visits every other weekend. She has to drive to our city for the visits since the judge does not want baby Bruce to travel back and forth all the time. Jack's parents oversaw the visits in their home. Miranda attended her planned visits and obeyed the regulations for the first month, but she appeared distant from Bruce, frequently passing him off to Jack's mother while she sat on her phone or watched television. Miranda began missing visits. First one, then two in a sequence, followed by months without touch. She stopped returning Tony's calls to schedule makeup appointments. When Jack's mother attempted to contact Miranda, her phone went directly to voicemail. We discovered on social media that Miranda had been dating someone new, a man she had supposedly met at work before returning to live with her parents. Her Instagram photos showed them traveling together, going to restaurants, and generally living like a childless couple in their 20s. Tony was devastated. Despite everything that had transpired, he hoped Miranda would stand up as Bruce's mother. He'd been suffering with his own guilt about their marriage's dissolution, wondering if he could have handled things differently. Jack's mother stepped in to help Tony with childcare while he worked. She basically became Bruce's primary caretaker during the day, which worked out perfectly because she already looked after my 3 children on a daily basis. The cousins are growing up together, which benefits everyone involved. Miranda made one farewell appearance at a family gathering to celebrate Jack's grandmother's 80th birthday last month. She arrived unexpectedly with her new partner, presumably expecting to be welcomed back as if nothing had occurred. The mood became tight instantly. Miranda's boyfriend was uneasy when he realized he'd entered into a family scenario. Miranda tried to act normal, asking to hold Bruce and commenting on how much he had grown. Tony returned Bruce after a few minutes and informed Miranda that she wasn't supposed to be there outside of scheduled visits. Miranda claimed she was family and had every right to attend family gatherings. Jack's father finally stood up, telling Miranda that she had lost the right to appear up unannounced after months of ignoring her son and bad-mouthing family members. He asked her and her partner to leave. Miranda burst into tears, claiming that everyone had turned against her for something she had done nothing to deserve. She claimed that I had ruined her life through manipulation and that no one cared about her side of the story. I had remained quiet throughout the confrontation, but that comment prompted me to speak up. I informed Miranda that digging through my personal belongings and attempting to steal my baby's name out of spite was her decision, not mine. I told her that she was responsible for every problem in her life and that she should quit blaming others for her actions. Miranda called me names I won't say here and said she wished I'd be unhappy for the rest of my life. Her partner was mortified and began pushing her toward the door. They left as she continued to hurl allegations at various family members. That was 2 months ago. Miranda hasn't contacted anyone from her family since then. Tony found out through mutual friends that she and her lover had moved out of state together. She allegedly told people that her ex-husband's family prevented her from seeing her son which is absolutely false but simpler than admitting she picked her current relationship above her child. Tony's been doing well as a single father. Bruce is a cheerful, healthy baby who lights up whenever he sees his father or grandparents. Tony recently began dating someone new, a woman who works for his company and has 2 children from a previous marriage. She appears to understand his circumstances and gets along well with Bruce. As for me, I have no regrets about creating the name trap. Miranda's reaction to being caught exposed her true personality. Someone who would abandon their child because they couldn't take being exposed for their petty, spiteful actions was never going to be a decent mother. My twins are prospering, and my elder son enjoys being a big brother. Jack and I are tired yet thrilled with our 3 children. Despite everything, Jack's bond with Tony has grown stronger. They now communicate regularly and support each other as fathers. Family gatherings are much more serene without Miranda's drama and nastiness. Jack's mother may focus on being a grandma rather than dealing with Miranda's emotional outbursts. Even Jack's father, who normally keeps out of family disputes, has remarked on how much more calm everyone appears. People sometimes ask me if I'm unhappy with how things turned out. The reality is, I did not cause Miranda to abandon her child or end her marriage. I simply created a situation that revealed her actual character. She could have accepted being caught gracefully, apologized for snooping, and gone on with her life. Instead, she chose to destroy every relationship she had rather than accept responsibility for her actions. Bruce is better off without a mother who despised his existence from the day he was born. Tony is better off without his wife, who married him as a consolation prize and spent years wishing she had picked someone else. The entire family is better off without someone who adds drama and negativity to every gathering. My name trap worked better than I expected. I figured I'd catch Miranda being inquisitive and embarrass her a little. Instead, I unintentionally helped a baby escape a terrible mother and Tony leave a poisonous marriage. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is provide them with enough rope to hang themselves.